So guys, we are back with yet another Borderlands 4 video, and today guys I bring you what I believe to be some of the patch notes just released early in French for the upcoming patch that we will normally see this Thursday. Now what I will say is these patch notes are labelled from the 25th, but there's 100% new stuff in here, mainly to Vault Hunters in regards to buffs, etc, etc. Now what I will do guys is I will link this post in the video description. Like I said, it was dropped in French, I've translated it to English. There's plenty of new stuff here, but a lot of it is what we've seen from last week. So yeah, we'll just go through the changes in regards to the Vault Hunters, and from what I recall is brand new information. So yeah, we're getting to it now. How's it going guys? My name's DPJ, and if you do enjoy the video, leaving a like really helps out, and if you like what you see and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. Okay, so on screen now you'll see a list of changes, which are just basically, if you want to read through this you can pause it. We'll see stability and performance. If you want to read through this, pause the video. And also rewards and progression. Again, if you want to read through this, just pause the video. Like I said, some of this is definitely new information, but some of it is from last week's patch. Okay, so we'll now move on to what they state is changes and rebalancing to the Vault Hunters, and we'll start with Harloew. Okay, so Gravitar's fundamental state has been fixed to remove erroneous information around enemies, taking reduced damage when they're not actually taking it. The Gravitar Flux Generator no longer heals enemies with the Apogee Potential Transfer. Updated the passive Gravitar Accumulation to permanently grant life drain to allies. Fixed various reported issues with Gravitar's Unstable Energy Pocket with the Chroma Accelerator action skill. This hotfix includes the following issues: the effect not disappearing properly, not transforming into ice damage as intended or cryo damage, or not distributing correctly with certain skill tree combinations. The skills affected by these updates are the Special Magnets Augment, Bright Light Apogee, the QED passive, the Icebreaker passive, the Rift in Containment Augment, and the Eureka passive. Gravitar rebalances. Okay, so action skills 0 point. Stasis Pan damage increased by 30%, and stasis resistance damage increased by 14.7%. Okay, so Amon the Night Blacksmith. The Nightsmith's Primal Surge passive skill now properly restores shield and ammo. The Nightsmith's Wall of Flame action skill has been changed so that Vengeance can no longer be activated by Wall of Flame before Scourge has been activated as intended. Blacksmith Knight's Massacre Missile Punch now more consistently hits enemies equipped with a shield. Fixed an issue where the Nightsmith's Blacksmith's Axe was not consistently detecting nearby enemies. Okay, so Knight Blacksmith rebalances action skill Scourge. Scourge has had its maximum vengeance increased by 50%, allowing it to absorb more damage and deal more damage with the Blacksmith Whip when used. Blacksmith's Whip in damage increased by 27%. Passive skills, Vengeance skill tree. Scorched Kairos now increases explosive weapon damage by 6% per point, up from 5%. Innate Warrior now increases weapon damage by 4% per point, up from 3%. Scar Tissue now increases maximum health and repair kit health by 9% per point, up from 8%. Eternity now increases action skill duration by 5% per point, up from 4%. World Breaker damage increased by 50%. Winter's Kiss now increases damage dealt by 10% per point, up from 8%. Anvil Strike now increases damage dealt by 15% per point, up from 12%. Change. Syncope's electrical damage is now correctly proportional to the number of points invested. Remember guys, these are being translated from English to French, so it may not make complete sense to everybody, but yeah. Augment a Vengeance skill tree. Ice Breath damage increased by 45%. Burning Rebuke damage increased by 86%. The damage of the Gigantic Wave Eternal Winter increased by 100%. Jeez. Storm Lance damage increased by 52% and Storm Lance explosion damage increased by 10%. The Vengeance skill tree, Glacial Rapture now has a 60-second cooldown, down from 70 seconds. Blacksmith's whip damage from Glacial Ravishment is increased by 16%. Glacial Ravishment Fissure damage increased by 41%. Wrathful Fall damage increased by 46%. Okay, so action skill of Crucible. Blacksmith's axe damage increased by 12%. The damage of the double-edged Blacksmith twin axe is increased by 10%. Okay, so passive skills, Cybernetic skill tree. Boiling Storm now increases elemental damage by 3% per stack, up from 2% per point. Execution now increases critical damage by 4% per point, up from 3%. Destructive Engine now increases blacksmithing talent damage by 6% per point, up from 5%. Destructive Engine now increases explosion damage by 8% per point, up from 6%. Okay, so the Tempered Pyre Blacksmith's axe damage increased by 19%. The Tempered Axe Blacksmith hammer damage increased by 18%. Goldsmithing now increases blacksmith drone damage by 10% per point, up from 7%. Goldsmithing now increases the duration of a blacksmith's drone by 8% per point, up from 5%. Blacksmith's sword muzzled lightning damage increased by 13%. The lightning rod elemental bolt now deals 40% of the damage dealt per point, up from 30%. Intensify now increases the blacksmith drone's attack speed and movement speed by 5% per point, up from 3%. Sharp Point now increases the critical strike chance of the blacksmith drone by 5% per point, up from 4%. Heat Exchange now increases ice and fire damage by 8% per point, up from 7%. Okay, so the Cybernetic skill tree. The cooldown restoration of the Axe and Stone action skill has been increased by 40%, up from 33%. The Axe and Stone action skill's explosive weapon restoration is increased by 40%, up from 33%. Infinite Warfare shot damage increased by 20% per bounty stack, up from 15%. Blacksmith's hammer hour damage increased by 14%. Blacksmith's sword Storm of Swords damage increased by 30%. Blacksmith's sword Storm of Swords explosion damage increased by 4%. Okay, so the Cybernetic skill tree. Mutilating Snow damage increased by 38%. Storm Surge impact damage increased by 10%. Blacksmith Storm damage increased by 60%. Fire Starter Fire Trail damage increased by 100%. Okay, so the action skill of Massacre. Massacre shield regeneration increases by 15% per second, up from 10%. Massacre missile punch damage increased by 78%. Magma hammer has a 60-second cooldown, down from 80. Magma hammer damage increased by 50%. Passive skill, Calamity skill tree. Heavy plate now increases maximum shield capacity by 7% per point, up from 6%. Snowmaster now increases elemental effect chance and elemental effect duration by 7% per point, up from 6%. Titanium Fist now increase melee damage by 9% per point, up from 7. Titanium Fist now increase action skill damage by 6% per point, up from 3. Harloew now increases melee damage by 2% per stack, up from 1% per point. Judgment now increases melee damage by 10% per point, up from 8%. Okay, so the Calamity skill tree. Glacial Fall damage increased by 71% and Thundering Fist damage increased by 69%. And again, Calamity skill tree. Cold Slash has a 55-second cooldown, reduced or dropped down from 65. Cold Slash damage increased by 11%. Damage from Slash Cold Explosions is increased by 18%. Magma Whirl has a 70-second cooldown, down from 80 seconds. Storm Slash has a 65-second cooldown, down from 75 seconds. And Storm Slash damage increased by 65%. Okay, so now we move on to Vex. Fix an issue where the Siren's Intense Harvest Augment would trigger while Incarnation was not active. Fix an issue where the Siren's passive degrading affinity would sometimes not deal damage to the Timekeeper. Damage dealt by the Siren's Spirit Bomb passive skill is now correctly counted as damage dealt by a follower, and its colour now matches the affinity element. Cool. Mermaid rebalances, action skills, embodiment, phase blast damage increased by 16.6% and ghostly breath damage increased by 9.5%. Passive skill, intense Vex skill tree. Arcane Arts now increases action skill damage by 9% per point, up from 8%. The intense Vex skill tree, energy vampire damage increases by 25%. The intense Vex skill tree, heart piercer damage increased by 22%. The desecration hazard damage increased by 50%. The desecration flying salvo damage increased by 48%, and the spectral wave damage increased by 41%. Okay, so action skills, the phasic pharmacist, again French to English guys, yeah. Mimic's health increases by 10%. Mimic's damage increased by 21.9%. Okay, so passive skills, skill tree smells like trouble. Magic blood now increases action skill damage by 8% per point, up from 7%. Claw and smash now increases melee damage by 8% per point, up from 6%. And the skill tree smells like trouble. Violent exaltation damage increased by 12.5%, and Vorpal Fang damage increased by 34%. Okay, so the skill tree again, it smells like trouble. Mimic bubble damage increased by 33%, and then we have passive skills, 4th seal skill tree. Cruel inscriptions, melee damage increased by 7% per point, up from 6%, and recurrence now increases melee damage by 0.2% per stack, up from 0.16% per point. The Harloew phase dagger damage increased by 11.7%. Okay, so lastly guys, we have Rafa. Fix an issue that prevented the Exo Soldier's passive skill of liquidation from stacking correctly, repeating action skills. Okay, so rebalances. Action skill, the electric blades, melee attack damage increased by 12% and the sprint damage increased by 5%. Okay, so the extra version skill tree, elegance, critical damage increased by 8% per point, up from 7%. Bonus electric damage increases by 8% per point, up from 7. A little reminder, double damage chance increased by 6% per point, up from 5%. Okay, so passive skills, we have here skill tree, the temporary mode. Hand games, melee damage increases by 9% per point, up from 7%. Until the last action skill, damage increases by 8% per point, up from 6%. Umbrella, area damage increases by 9% per point, up from 7%. Execution, damage increased by 50%. Explosive collaboration, bonus damage increases by 8% per point, up from 6%. Synergy, the duration increased by 14 seconds compared to 12 seconds previously, and melee damage increases by 4% per point, up from 3%. And then we have push, action skill duration increases by 7% per point, up from 6% previously. So those are the changes we have to our 4 vote hunters. Let me know your thoughts down below guys. If you can do a better translation than me, please do drop a comment down below. Okay, so now on screen, if you want to see a gameplay, pause the video and read through this again. I'm not sure what's new here and what isn't. Some is new, some ain't. Then we have material, they state material. Yeah, pause it if you want to read through this. A UI and UX, again, if you want to read through this, pause it, be my guest. Graphics, again, same thing. And then we have a few other things like settings and accessibility and miscellaneous. But yes guys, quite a big patch. Again, this is something we won't normally get until Thursday, but for some reason they released, I don't know if this is all of them, but they released it early, but only in French. So yeah, again, I apologize if my translation is a bit off, but yeah. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like really helps out. If you like what you see and want to see more, be sure to subscribe, and hopefully guys, I will see you on that next one.